You're not weak. You're just trapped in fear. And the worst part, you don't even realize it. You know that project you don't start, that workout you put off every day, that difficult conversation you avoid. That's not laziness. It's terror disguised as exhaustion. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest samurai who ever lived, faced 60 death duels and never lost. But you know what his real enemy was? It wasn't his opponents. It was internal fear. And he discovered something about discipline that most people will never understand. Have you been through this? You wake up in the morning promising that today will be different. Today you'll start. Today you'll change. But when the time comes, something pulls you back. You come up with an excuse. You say you're tired, that it's not the right moment, that you'll start on Monday, and deep down you know it's a lie. But you keep believing it anyway, because it's easier to believe you lack discipline than to face the truth. You're afraid of change. Japanese philosophy always understood this. Samurais weren't warriors because they were born courageous. They were warriors because they learned to face fear every single day. Musashi wrote in the Book of Five Rings something that should be tattooed on everyone's mind. You must train every day. When you don't train your body, train your mind. When you don't train your mind, observe your fears. Observe your fears. Don't ignore them. Don't run from them. Observe them. Because that's what you've been doing your whole life. You've been running, and you called it not having discipline. You transformed fear into laziness. You transformed paralysis into exhaustion. And now you're convinced the problem is lack of willpower. But it's not. It never was. Stick with me until the end, because what you're about to discover can turn your life upside down. And no, I'm not talking about another motivational video full of pretty phrases that don't change anything. I'm talking about a brutal truth that Musashi spent years understanding. Discipline isn't about motivation. Discipline is about facing fear and acting anyway. Think about it. How many times have you started something and quit halfway? How many times have you promised you'd change, and 3 days later you were back to square one? You thought it was weakness, that you didn't have what it takes. But actually, you were facing the greatest enemy that exists: internal resistance. That voice that says, not now, tomorrow is better. You're not ready. And you know what makes all this worse? We live in a culture that romanticizes discipline. Everyone talks about morning routines, about waking up early, about being productive. But nobody talks about what really happens when you try to change. Nobody talks about the discomfort, about the fear of failing, about the terror of stepping out of your comfort zone and discovering you're not who you thought you were. Miyamoto Musashi knew this. He knew the real battlefield wasn't out there. It was right here inside. And he spent his whole life teaching one thing: the warrior defeats himself before defeating any enemy. Because if you can't face your own fears, how will you face the world? What you're about to discover might surprise you. Because it's not about having more discipline. It's not about waking up earlier or having more willpower. It's about something much deeper. Something that, when you understand it, changes everything. You know what's the difference between someone who changes their life and someone who stays stuck? It's not talent, it's not luck, it's the courage to take the first step even while afraid. And if you've made it this far in this video, it's because something inside you recognizes this truth. You feel that something greater is waiting for you on the other side of fear. So I want to ask you something. If this content is making sense to you, if you're starting to see that the problem was never lack of discipline, I need you to do something for me and for yourself. Leave a comment here. Today I face my fear. Just that. 3 words. But those 3 words are a commitment. A pact you're making with yourself right now. You know why? Because when you write it, when you declare it publicly, something changes inside you. It's the first act of courage. It's you telling the universe and yourself, I won't run anymore. And look, your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who are stuck in the mall. Same cycle. Every comment, every like, every subscription isn't about numbers. It's about building a community of people who decided to stop lying to themselves, who decided to face the truth. If you believe these teachings can transform lives, leave your like so more people discover this truth. Because there's someone out there right now thinking about giving up. And maybe this video is exactly what that person needs to see. And if you want to keep receiving more transformative content about Miyamoto Musashi's teachings and Japanese philosophy, subscribe to the channel. Because here we don't talk about superficial motivation. We dive deep into truths that really transform, into the lessons that warriors took centuries to discover, and you deserve access to this. Now let's go deeper into this truth, because understanding that the problem is fear is just the beginning. What you really need to know is how Musashi transformed this knowledge into action, the illusion that controls you. Now I want to go even deeper into this because there's an illusion that controls your life and you don't even realize it. Life didn't knock you down, you let yourself fall. And this is one of the hardest truths to swallow, because it's more comfortable to believe that circumstances are bigger than you, that the world conspires against your dreams, that you have no control. But the reality is much harsher and, at the same time, much more liberating. You're exactly where your decisions have placed you. You spend your days waiting for the perfect moment, waiting to feel ready, waiting to have courage. But the truth is, you're never going to feel ready. You know why? Because your brain was programmed to protect you, and change feels like danger. This is the cruelest trick of the human mind. It convinces you that waiting is safe, that postponing is prudent, that hesitating is wisdom. But it's not. It's just fear disguised as rationality. Japanese philosophy has a concept called ichigo, ichi, which means one encounter, one opportunity. Samurais lived with the awareness that every moment was unique and irrepeatable. They didn't wait for the perfect moment because they knew it didn't exist. Miyamoto Musashi never waited to feel brave to enter a duel. He entered with fear, with doubt, with uncertainty. But he entered. And that's the difference between someone who transforms their life and someone who just dreams about transformation. The problem is that you've created a powerful internal narrative, a story you tell yourself every day. I'll start when I have more time. I'll change when I have more money. I'll act when I feel more prepared. And this story has become your reality. You believe it so much that you don't even question it anymore. It's become automatic. It's become part of who you are. But this story is a lie, an illusion keeping you in the same place while life passes by. And you know what makes this illusion even more dangerous? It feeds on small truths. It's true that you're tired. It's true that you have responsibilities. It's true that life is difficult. But these truths are used as excuses to avoid the bigger truth. You're afraid of failing, afraid of being judged, afraid of discovering you're not good enough. And while you wait for the perfect moment, years pass, decades pass, and you stay in the same place with the same excuses, living the same life you swore you'd change. Musashi wrote something brutal in the Book of Five Rings. The warrior who waits for the perfect moment never enters battle. Think about that. If you wait to be ready, you'll never act. Because ready is an illusion. Nobody is ready. Nobody feels prepared. Everyone is afraid. The difference is that some act despite the fear, and others let fear decide for them. The invisible prison. And now comes the part that hurts most. You're trapped in a cycle you created yourself. This isn't the system's fault. It's not your childhood's fault. It's not the circumstances' fault. It's you. You built this prison brick by brick, decision by decision, postponement by postponement. And the worst part? The bars are invisible. You don't see them, but you feel the weight every day. Every day is the same thing. You promise to start tomorrow. You swear Monday will be different. You convince yourself that when things get better, then you'll act. But tomorrow became weeks. Weeks became months. And you're still in the same place, looking at the same wall, living the same routine, feeling the same emptiness. You know what truth nobody wants to hear? It's not lack of discipline. It's you feeding your fear with every postponement. Every time you choose the comfort of the known zone, you're telling your fear, "You're right, I can't do this." You're reinforcing the belief that you're weak. And the more you do this, the stronger this belief gets, until it becomes your identity. Miyamoto Musashi said something brutal. The way of the warrior is acceptance of death. But he wasn't talking about physical death. He was talking about the death of your limited self, the death of your excuses. Because while you protect this weak version, you can't be born again. You stay trapped in this endless cycle of empty promises. Japanese philosophy teaches the concept of kaizen, continuous improvement through small steps. But here's the detail. These steps need to start today. Not on Monday. Not next month. Because if you wait for the perfect moment, you'll die waiting. This invisible prison has a name, comfort zone, but comfort is a lie. There's no comfort in stagnation. There's only familiarity, and you confused known with safe. But it's not safe. It's dangerous. Because every day you spend in this prison is a day you'll never get back. And you know what's saddest? You know it. Deep down, you know you're sabotaging yourself. But you keep doing it. Because change hurts. Because growth is uncomfortable. So you prefer the slow pain of stagnation to the sharp pain of transformation. The silent thief. But something even more serious is happening. If you keep being afraid, your life won't change. And this isn't a threat. It's a fact. Years will pass. You'll look back and see the same scenery, the same complaints, the same regrets, because hesitation is stealing from you something that never comes back. Time. This is the silent thief. It makes no noise, leaves no trace. But every day it enters your life and steals pieces of your future. And you let it. You open the door for it, you invite it in, because you believe postponing is safe, that waiting is prudent. But while you wait, time doesn't wait. It passes, and it takes away opportunities, relationships, versions of you that will never exist. You've become a slave to your own thoughts. And the worst part? You don't even realize it anymore, because you've normalized paralysis, called it realism, called it being practical, called it keeping your feet on the ground. But deep down, you know it's just fear. Fear of failing, fear of being judged, fear of discovering you're not as special as you thought, so you'd rather not try, rather stay in the safety of mediocrity. Miyamoto Musashi lived his whole life knowing that every day could be his last. He didn't have the luxury of postponing, didn't have time to wait for the perfect moment, and it was this awareness of death that made him alive. He wrote, "Think lightly of yourself and deeply about the world." You know what that means? Stop protecting yourself so much. Stop being so afraid of making mistakes, because the more you protect yourself, the less you live. Japanese philosophy has the concept of mono no aware, awareness of the impermanence of things. Everything passes, everything changes, everything ends. And when you really understand this, you stop postponing, because you realize there's no guarantee. There's no guaranteed tomorrow. There's only now. And you're wasting this now with fear of a future that might never come. Think about it. How many years have you already lost? How many opportunities have you let pass? How many better versions of you got left behind because you chose fear? And the most important question, how many more years will you waste before you wake up? Because time doesn't come back. You won't be this age again. You won't have this energy again. You won't have these opportunities again. And while you hesitate, while you postpone, while you negotiate with your fears, life is passing. And one day you'll wake up old, full of regrets, wondering where the time went. The exit door. But there's a way to break this. And before you think I'm going to sell you a magic solution, let me be direct. It's not motivation. It's not an inspiring video that will fix it. It's not an impactful phrase on Instagram that you'll save and forget about in 5 minutes. It's something deeper, more real, more ancient. It's what warriors knew centuries ago, and you can access it today. You don't need money, you don't need resources, you don't need anyone's permission. You just need one decision, a single decision that will change the entire trajectory of your life. You know what the secret is? Accept the fear. Don't defeat it. Don't eliminate it. Accept it, because fear never goes away. Musashi faced 60 death duels and was afraid in every single one. The difference is that he didn't let fear decide for him. He accepted that fear was there, looked it in the eyes, and acted anyway. Japanese philosophy teaches the concept of shoshin, beginner's mind. It's the idea that you need to face every challenge as if it were the first time, without ego, without pretense, without the need to be ready. Because when you accept that you're not ready, that you'll make mistakes, that it will be difficult, something magical happens. You stop waiting and start acting. This is the exit door. It's not a grand door. It's not a bombastic revelation. It's a shift in perspective. It's you understanding that discipline isn't about wanting to do something. It's about doing it despite not wanting to. It's about acting despite the fear. It's about accepting discomfort as part of the process. Musashi said, "Today is victory over yourself from yesterday." It's not about being perfect. It's not about never failing. It's about being slightly better than you were yesterday. One step, one decision, one action. And when you put together these small moments of courage, you transform your entire life. The hidden truth nobody tells you is this: you already have everything you need. Nothing is missing. You don't need more knowledge. You don't need more preparation. You just need to stop negotiating with fear and start acting. Because action generates clarity. Action generates confidence. Action generates transformation. And this door is open right now. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, right now. The question is, will you walk through it, or will you keep looking at it, waiting for the perfect moment that will never come? The way of the warrior. Now let me show you how Miyamoto Musashi turned this into practice. He wrote in the Book of 5 Rings, "You must train every day. When you don't train your body, train your mind. When you don't train your mind, observe your fears." This phrase changed my life, because it shows you that there's no day off. There's no break. The way of the warrior is daily. Musashi won 60 duels, not because he was stronger. It wasn't because he had some supernatural talent. He won because he faced fear every single day. He woke up knowing he could die. He entered every battle knowing that day could be his last. And still, he entered. Because he knew discipline isn't about motivation. It's about acting even when you're dying of fear. He said something that should be tattooed on your mind. The warrior accepts death before battle. Thus, he fights without fear. Translating this to our reality, accept the worst-case scenario. Accept that you might fail. Accept that it will be uncomfortable. Accept that people might judge you. Accept that you might mess up badly. And then, do it anyway. This is the mindset that separates those who transform their lives from those who just dream about transformation. Japanese philosophy calls this fudoshin, unshakable mind. It's not a mind that doesn't feel fear. It's a mind that doesn't let fear control it. It's you recognizing that fear is there, but deciding to act anyway. The discipline you think you lack, it's born exactly at this moment. When you stop negotiating with fear, when you stop waiting to feel brave, when you accept that it will be hard, that it will hurt, that you might mess up, and you do it anyway. Because discipline isn't a feeling. It's a decision repeated every day. You know what the impact is? Every time you act despite your fear, you're training. You're strengthening the warrior inside you. You're building the version of you that doesn't negotiate, that doesn't hesitate, that doesn't run. And over time, this version becomes who you really are. Musashi spent his whole life perfecting this inner journey. He knew that the real enemy was never his opponents. It was always himself, the voices in his head, the doubts, the fears, and he won by training daily the courage to act, the moment of truth. So get up, not metaphorically, not one day, now. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop negotiating with your fears. Stop postponing the life you know you deserve. Because that moment you're waiting for, it doesn't exist. It never existed. It's an illusion you created to justify your paralysis. Today, now, at this very second, you choose one more day feeding your fear or the first day breaking the cycle. There's no middle ground. There's no I'll try. Either you decide or you stay the same. And if you stay the same, a year from now, you'll be watching another video like this, asking yourself why your life hasn't changed. The warrior doesn't wait for courage. He acts and courage appears. This is the truth Miyamoto Musashi discovered after decades facing death. Courage doesn't come before action. It comes during action. You won't wake up tomorrow brave. You'll wake up scared. The difference is that you'll act despite it. Japanese philosophy has a proverb that says, "Fall 7 times, stand up 8. But something nobody talks about. It's not important how many times you fall. It's the decision to stand up. It's you looking at the ground, feeling the pain, recognizing the failure, and still choosing to stand up. Because every time you stand up, you're saying, I don't give up on myself. Break the cycle today, not tomorrow, not next Monday, not when things get better. Today. Because if you don't break it today, you won't break it tomorrow. you'll find another excuse, another reason to postpone, and you'll die with a list of should have done. Musashi spent his last years in a cave writing. You know what he wrote? That his greatest victory wasn't any of the 60 duels. It was victory over himself, over his fears, over his limitations, over the weak version of him that wanted to quit. And he only achieved this because he made a decision and repeated it every day. This is your hour. This is your moment. There won't be a sign from the universe. There won't be magical revelation. There will only be you, your decision, and the courage to take the first step, and then the second, and then the third, until you look back and don't recognize who you were. The moral of the story. In the end, you'll realize something that will change everything. It was never about having discipline from the beginning. It was about having the courage to start without it. This is the lesson it took me years to understand. And it's the same lesson Miyamoto Musashi tried to teach his whole life. You don't need to be ready. You just need to start. Because discipline doesn't come before action. It comes after. It's built through sweat, repetition, discomfort. Every time you act despite your fear, you strengthen the warrior inside you. Every time you choose the hard path instead of the easy one, you're building a stronger version of yourself. Discipline isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you build brick by brick, decision by decision. And you know what really separates those who live the life they want from those who just dream about it? One decision, a single decision, to stop waiting and start building. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not privilege. It's the decision to act even without guarantees, even without knowing if it will work, even afraid of failing. Japanese philosophy teaches the concept of ganbaru, persevere with all your strength. But it's not blind perseverance, it's conscious perseverance. You know it will be difficult. You know it will hurt. You know you'll want to quit, but you keep going, not because you're strong, but because you decided to be. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be brave enough to take the first step, and then the second, and then the third, and when you look back, you'll realize you've traveled a distance you thought was impossible, not because you became someone different, but because you stopped waiting for permission to start. Musashi spent his whole life perfecting his technique, but you know what he said at the end? That the greatest technique was to have no technique. It was to be yourself, completely, without masks, without excuses, without fear of being judged. Just you on your journey doing the best you can with what you have. Because in the end, life doesn't ask if you were ready. It asks, did you have courage? Did you have the courage to try, to fail, to stand up and try again? Or did you spend your whole life waiting for the perfect moment that never came? And if you've made it this far, it's because something in this video touched you. And that tells me you're not like most people. You're not here just to consume content. You're here because you really want to change. And that's rare. If this content made sense to you, subscribe to the channel. Because here I don't bring empty motivation. I bring warrior philosophy. I bring Miyamoto Musashi's teachings and Japanese wisdom applied to your life. And if you want to continue on this transformation journey with me, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment saying, my fear doesn't control me anymore, because I want to know who are the people who are truly willing to face the truth about themselves. Who are the warriors building the best version of themselves every day? And if this video touched you in any way, leave a like. Not for me, but because you recognize the value of this message and want it to reach more people who need to hear it. There's a video right here that complements this topic and will show you how to apply all of this in practice. Click on it and continue with me there, because the journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning. I'll see you in the next video, and remember, you are stronger than your fears.